Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. CEO didn't understand what my department did apparently. Some backstory. I was a general troubleshooter for my company. My job involved a lot of travelling to different clients we support. My area of work is Ontario, Canada, where I'm based out of, and some of the nearby states in the United States, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Pennsylvania. I did most of my travelling by car since my schedule can change quite quickly, and flying can become very expensive. I had one colleague who is technically my subordinate, but we have a very good working relationship and would often handle calls independently of each other, only checking in by phone once a week and in person once a month or when necessary. A little over a year ago, I get an email calling me to the head office in New York City for a meeting with the CEO and the board of directors regarding my job. I check with my colleague and he got the same email. So, we make our travel plans and meet in New York City the following week. We have dinner together the night before our meeting and can't figure out between us what the issue is about. It's rare to get summoned to the head office, and more rare for things to be so vague. When we go into the meeting the next day, we are informed that the company is dividing our department between the US and Canada, and that there would be a new person to deal with the US clients, and we were to restrict ourselves to Canada. Both my colleague and I were a little shocked at this, since neither of us had even heard this was being discussed. I asked who the new person was for the US, and we then learned that it was a new hire that the CEO had taken a special interest in. Trying to be of good spirit, I offered to train the new person. There are many realities of the job that are not in the job description. The CEO accepted and then brought in the new hire. In walks a young lady who looks about 23 years old and wears an expression that she knows everything. She sits at the table and immediately makes it very clear that she wants nothing to do with us. CEO is Bob, new hire Karen, and my colleague Jim. Welcome Karen, we have just informed OP and Jim about the change in structure, and they are willing to give you the support that you need to get yourself started. Karen and Bob both look at me. Glad to have you aboard, Karen. I think both Jim and I have a lot of experience to share with you, and we are happy to do so. Perhaps it would be better in a separate meeting so we don't take the board's time. Thank you all. I have a lot of ideas about how we can streamline our department and new policies I can introduce that should save the company a lot of money in expenses. I'm very confused at this point. Karen is speaking as though she is my supervisor, and that is distinctively not what Bob spoke to us about. I can see some of the board members giving strange looks at this as well. Bob, perhaps I misunderstood the new roles here. Would you please clarify? Sure. Karen is the new head of your department, and both you and Jim will answer directly to her. A random board member speaks up. That isn't what we discussed or approved as a board. We weren't fully convinced of dividing the department, but this is completely against what we discussed. What did you discuss then? That your department would be divided between the US and Canada. OP and Jim would remain north of the border and you would run the US. That's not what I was told, but I can work with that, as long as these two stay out of my way. Indicating me and Jim. Jim and I are both shocked and insulted to be spoken of in this manner. We are both very good at our jobs, and before today have never seen this woman in our lives. That settles it. OP, effective immediately. You and Jim are to have nothing to do with Karen. Do not interfere with her work at all. You are both to restrict yourselves to working within Canada only. With that, he ended the meeting and left the room with Karen close behind him. Jim and I sat there stunned for a moment, and some of the board members came up to us to express their shock and sympathies about this. I had enough presence of mind to ask if we would get a written directive of this change, and was assured we would. Sure enough, both Jim and I got emails with the new directive from Bob by the end of the day. So, after sending an email to all of our US-based clients, advising them of the change and giving them the contract information of Karen, Jim and I made our way back to Toronto and reorganised ourselves for working with Ontario only. This meant much less travelling for us, so it gave us more room to breathe. Within a week, I was getting complaints from our US-based clients that Karen was not answering emails and missing appointments. I forwarded these emails to Karen and copied the entire board, including Bob. Another week later, I get a phone call from Karen, who sounds frantic but will not admit she needs help. She makes pleasant conversation and then asks how I would handle a particular type of situation. I tell her I'm really not interested in discussing work, as that might be seen as interfering in her work. Later that evening, I get a call from Jim telling me he had the same conversation with Karen and handled it the same way. By the end of that month, I get a call from Bob asking if I will take over the entire department again. I politely tell him no, since I didn't want to interfere with Karen and her role. For the next 3 months, I'm getting emails and phone calls from the US clients asking if they could have me back as their contact. This confirms an idea that had been in my head. Jim and I had actually grown our client base in Ontario since restricting ourselves here. So, I had lunch with Jim one day and asked if he wanted to go into business with me as partners, starting our own consulting firm. We couldn't provide everything our current company provided, but we could provide a high degree of professionalism for our specific field, and it seemed we had a ready-made client base. By the end of the lunch, he was on board and we started the necessary steps to get ourselves set up. As soon as we were clear, we both submitted our resignations with explanations of why. The next time clients contacted us, we told them we no longer worked for the company. When they asked if we still worked in the field, we told them we had established our own firm and what services we offered. A month later, we had 60% of our US clients on board. And since the former company had no Canadian support at all, we had 80% of the Canadian clients. Within 2 months, we had 80% of the US and 90% of the Canadian clients. In the year since that time, our new company has grown enough that we have hired 7 new consultants. Jim and I find ourselves doing more office work than road work, and a lot of client courting. Our old company has had to stop offering the in-person troubleshooting, what our department did, and Bob was fired by the board. No idea what happened to Karen. Updates. Because of interest expressed in the comments, I made a phone call to one of the board members I remained on friendly terms with. Here are some answers to the questions. How did Karen get the job? Apparently, Bob had set up a business school scholarship out of his own money, which had put something like 6 or 7 students through business school. Karen was the latest graduate, and Bob wanted to give her a start in the business world. Was Bob sleeping with Karen? No clear answer was given, but Bob's wife divorced him shortly after he was fired from the company. Make of that what you will. What happened to Karen? Apparently, she got a job as middle management in a financial services company. Hopefully, she can still build a life for herself and has learned some important lessons. What happened to Bob? Last I heard, he was a regional director for a large hotel chain. Hopefully, he also lands on his feet. Everyone deserves a chance to make a life for themselves. Some questioned why the board was there for this meeting. I honestly don't know, and neither did the board member I spoke with. It was one of their regular scheduled meetings, and Bob added things to the agenda. Some questioned my use of non-competes, saying it's not nice. It's a normal reality in the business world. The oddity is that my old company did not have one. The non-compete I have my employees sign is not overly burdensome. It protects our intellectual property and professional contacts. It does not in any way restrict the employee's ability to work in the field. That said, Jim and I both agreed that if an employee leaves us on good terms and reasonably asks to be released from the non-compete, we would oblige. Some inquired if we are still hiring. Unfortunately, we are not. We are taking a pause from expansion right now as Jim's wife is dealing with cancer. I don't want Jim to worry about the office while taking care of his wife, so we've decided to maintain our size, which I can do with minimal input from Jim, until his wife is in remission and he has a chance to rest and return his attention more fully to our company. Jim and I treat each other like family, So this is natural steps for us. Yeah, boss hires 23-year-old Karen to work for his company as the head of department, and then he loses the job and his wife leaves him. Yeah, I think we can all see where that went. You break it, you pay $2,000 for it, lady. In a previous post, I mentioned I worked at a high-end toy store with all sorts of weird and wonderful customers. We're also prone to getting a large amount of Karens and Carls. Here is another story of the Karens. Story time. Every Christmas, head office had us sell some ultra expensive, top of the line toy in an extremely limited quantity. Helps generate hype for the Christmas sales. This Christmas, every store was given a metal framed pedal cart, the El Dorado of must-have toys. We called this cart the European Union cart. All parts were made from Italy, sans the tyres. The tyres were from England. The cart was assembled in France and sold under a premium German toy brand. How much would you pay for this? $500? $1,000? Try $2,000. I'm no Peter Dinklage, but I was the only employee in the state to actually fit the cart and successfully test drive it, with major difficulty. The cart was pre-made. All it required was a kid with parents willing to throw their wallets at us. The cart was the star of the show. We allowed kids to test drive it, but it always led to a waterworks display as the kid had bonded with the cart as well as the metal of the cart frame bonded with itself. Many parents balked at the price. Even the rich parents thought it was exorbitant to pay $2,000 for that cart. The same parents who had 3 luxury cars and a boat vegetating on their properties. However, the weak-willed was swept with the chaff as it left only 2 players in the game for the cart. First was a Karen, a real Karen. Her actual name was Karen. She was retired and a major fitness nut. She dressed like Olivia Newton-John in the Physical music video and chugged down detox and fiber shakes. The only thing that was more active than her fiber laxative coated colon was her insistence on being the most friendly and upstanding person. Even when I left my job, I'd see her around and she'd always stop, jogging in place, and spend a couple of minutes asking how my day was. She was a fan of that cart, but kept mming and ahhing over whether to buy it or not. I'll call her Reverse Karen, or RK. Second was a proper Karen. She may as well have had Roxette's The Look playing in the background, because she had the Karen look on point. Up until she descended from the soccer mum planet into our store, I would see her hanging around the tanning salon on the way to work. She clearly overdid the tanning, as you could harvest her face to make beef jerky. We'll call her the only name that fits her, Patricia. On the day of the incident, Patricia brought in her kid. Wowzers. This kid was the patron saint of video game addicts. Competed with Shamu in weight, a triple-digit bearer of facial pimples and skin so white you could crack him open and use his corpse as a glow stick. The only thing in his body that showed regular cardio activity was his pituitary gland. He looked 10, but his height made him tall for his age. I don't have a sense of smell, so I was spared from the fact his body odor made him smell like a walking yeast infection. I'll call this kid Donut. She walked in with the kind of swagger and style that made her look like a beta Victoria Beckham, while Donut fee-fi-fo-fummed behind her, clearly missing all that valuable Call of Donut playtime. Good morning, how can I help you? I'm here to buy that cart for my son. The cart has a max age of 8 years old. I know he won't fit inside it. At this point, I'm not sure if it's the boy who ate Willy Wonka behind her, or another younger son in her menagerie she's buying it for. How old is your son? Patricia walks up road the lump of mashed potatoes behind her and proudly claps her hand on his shoulders. He's 11. Our toy store stops stocking toys above 10. It is mentioned quite clearly in the store. And she wants to shovel her 11-year-old McKellen man-boobs into the cart. Unlike Donut's diet, I'm weighing up my options. Do I sell the cart and enjoy that sweet $2,000 injection into the budget and be the first store in the state to sell it? Or Do I inject my hard reality into Patricia's expectations and tell her that her son can't fit in the car? I chose the latter and give my opinion as to why it would be a poor choice. Donut agrees with me in the form of a nod and a loud, lethargic moaning noise that probably triggered that year's whale mating season. Like the concept of fake tanning, Patricia is having none of that. My son is healthy and he can fit in the cart. I give up reasoning with her as a brainwave hits me. I can see a $2,000 potentially on the horizon. Alright, I'll get the cart down and your son can hop in. I set the cart down and Patricia prods to Donut to get in. Donut waddles over and tried to get in. Did I tell you that carts are very low to the ground? Small kids can climb in no problem, but tall people have to literally drop in, and that's what Donut had to do. His bum slammed the cart seat, and all that sudden weight caused the cart to bow in the middle as well as the front axle. Donut's squashed appearance inside the broken cart made him look like an anemic muffin. It took myself, Patricia, and another customer to peel Donut out of the now mangled cart. Patricia is now a kangaroo staring at the flashlight regarding the appearance of the car. I felt like it was the appropriate time to reinforce the store's "you break it, you pay for it" policy. Good morning, $2,000. After explaining the situation to our stockists, we had another shipped over 2 days later, which was bought by RK with far less hassle and drama. I feel really bad for that kid. Poor guy probably just wants to sit at home, play some video games, but I mean, he doesn't have the parents to tell him, you need to stop and do some exercise, you know? And yeah, feels bad. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.